Welcome back. In our previous video, we set up our blueprint animation. In this video, we are going to set up the character blueprint. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It really helps with the channel. Let's get started. Now, in our first video, we already created our character blueprint, but if you haven't already, right click and click blueprint class and choose the character. Now the character blueprint is basically a object that can be possessed and has a movement component already stored attached to it. Double click the blueprint character, your character blueprint. Now the first thing that we're going to do is select mesh on the left side. And on the right side of the screen where it says, scroll down to where it says mesh, and you will see skeletal mesh. Click none and select your skeletal mesh. Then we're going to go to the viewport and select perspective and choose front. Zoom in. And in the viewport where you see the grid, click the number and make sure it should be set to 10 by default, but click 10, click the number and change that to 1 so it snaps in 1 increments. Go to the viewport and move your character down as close as possible to the bottom of the capsule component. Now, depending on your model, you can select the capsule component and just go over to the right, the details panel, and change the sizing under shape. Go back to the perspective view and we're going to rotate this mesh. So select your character and hit the spacebar and rotate the character 90 degrees. Click compile. Click the mesh again, and under animation, make sure it says use animation blueprint. You can also use an animation asset, but we're going to use the blueprint that we created in the last video. So select animation class and choose the animation blueprint that we created in the last video and click compile. And as you can see, our character is moving based on that animation blueprint. Now the next thing that we want to do is we are going to add a spring arm and a camera component. So where you see components on the left side of the screen at the top, click add plus add and type in spring. And we're just going to leave that named spring arm. Now the camera is going to be attached to the spring arm and it's going to follow the end or the tip of the spring arm. So go back to click the plus button and add a camera. And this is important. If the camera, as you can see, the camera is already parented to the spring arm. If the camera isn't already parented, what you want to do is select the camera, click and drag it over the spring arm so it can be parented. Now select the spring arm. Now if your camera isn't already snapped to the spring arm right here, if it's not centered, what you want to do is select the camera, go to the transform on the right side and just zero the parameters out. Go back and select the spring arm, click the space bar a few times and then move the spring arm up to the head area or the neck. and click compile. Now that's pretty much it. I believe that's pretty much it for all the components that we need. Now what we need to do is go back to the components and make change three settings. Now go to the top where it says blueprint underscore character self. Click that and go over to the details panel, and I believe these are the class defaults. What we want to do, scroll down to where it says pawn and make sure you unclick false. Where it says use controller rotation yaw, make sure that is unchecked, because that's going to give us a conflict with another setting that we're going to make. Let's continue down to where it says click the spring arm, and let's type in use pawn and under settings we see a setting called use pawn control rotation. And that's basically, I believe that's going to do is it's going to take the rotation from the actual pawn. It's going to take the rotation from the actual controller instead of the actual 3D model, if that makes any sense. So make sure that's clicked. Click compile. And our last settings are going to be located in the player movement component. Now the player movement component, it basically houses or it controls the movement of the player. So anything that you want to change that involves the movement of the player is most likely, or all of it is going to be, all of it is going to be housed in the character movement component. As you can see, you can change the gravity, the acceleration, the walking, the jumping, the swimming, and the flying. What we're going to do real quick, which you don't have to do, is we're going to change the jump velocity, the speed of the jump. We're going to change that to 650. And we're going to change the air control. We're going to change that to 0.25. And the air control is, you know how Super Mario, when he jumps, you can move back and forth. That's the air control. Now, in reality, when you jump up, you can't really control your movement. So if you're looking for something realistic, you probably want to zero that out, this setting out. But this is that's all preference. Now, what you want to make sure you do in this component is go to the search field and type in Orient or Orient. Type in Orient rotation to movement. You want to make sure that this is checked. Those three settings are very important. And if something's going wrong, most likely those three haven't been checked properly. So we have that selected, and we're going to click compile. And I believe that's pretty much it. We set up, I think this guy's pretty much set up properly, everything. So just to recap, what did we do in this video? We created our character blueprint. So how did we do that? We added our skeletal mesh. We also added our animation blueprint that we created in the last video, and we added two more components, which were the spring arm and the camera. We also we parented the camera to the spring arm, and we made 3 changes. We made 5 changes. We changed the velocity to 600, and we changed the air control to 0.25. And we made 3 changes, important changes that you want to make sure that you do. We made sure we unchecked the use control rotation yaw. We made sure that was unchecked, and we made sure we checked use pawn rotation. We made sure that was checked, and we made sure orient rotation movement was checked as well. That's it for this video. Make sure you check out the next video in this series. If you haven't already, if you like this video, if you found it very informative, if you want to see more videos, you got to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. That's pretty much it. You guys take care.